a secret private military organization that operates on an unknown agenda. The Black Tusks are a disciplined and highly organized group of elite soldiers. Cutting-edge equipment and robotic weapons, they are the biggest threat that the division has ever faced. It's been 7 months since the initial green poison outbreak, when an attack on the SHD network shuts down the system controlling their advanced technology and communications. Division agents receive a distress call from Washington, D.C. Upon arriving in the capital, the agents find much of the city is under the control of 3 main enemy factions: the Hyenas, a loosely organized group of several gangs; the Outcasts, a fanatical group seeking revenge; and the True Sons, a highly organized and ruthless group of former JTF personnel. The division worked day and night to liberate the city, and eventually managed to push the factions into their respective strongholds and take them out one by one. However, as the division celebrate their victory, a new, technologically advanced group rolls in and invades the city. This was the invasion of the Black Tusk. The Black Tusk are a private military contractor who have been brought into Washington by an unnamed employer. Barden Schaefer is the Black Tusk Specialist Unit leader. He is directly below the Black Tusk commanding officer and another supervisor. Their identities are unknown. Barden's family has a history in law enforcement and government security. He enlisted at the age of 18 and served multiple tours of Iraq and Afghanistan. He proved to be highly tactical and had the ability to eliminate targets with extreme efficiency. Shortly after the outbreak in New York, the Black Tusks were approached and hired by a mysterious organization. They see that the chaos in New York is only the beginning, and that when the time is right, they want to exploit the disorder and breakdown of society when it hits the capital. Barden was ordered by his superiors to create the Black Tusk Specialist Unit.
Decent coffee, right?
Fuck if I know. I don't drink this shit for pleasure.
Trust me, it's good. You should savor it. Might be your last chance.
Man, it still tastes like dirt.
What's happening in New York is just the beginning.
Yeah, no shit.
I want you to put together a team.
I already have a team.
A bigger team, more diversified.
For what?
For whatever it takes. We have an opportunity here, a golden one. But we have to be smart, and we have to act fast.
So no choir boys is what you're saying?
I'm saying scoundrels and scum. All right? Killers and cutthroats. I don't give a shit as long as they follow orders and can get shit done.
All right. I'll get to work.
I'll work fast. The end is fucking nigh.
Barden set off to work assembling his new Specialist Forces unit. He can even be seen talking to Odessa Sawyer.
Barden Schaefer. How are you still alive and kicking?
Odessa Sawyer as I live and breathe. Well, Mama always said I was a cockroach. I assumed she meant I was tough to kill.
I doubt it. Who are your friends?
I might do introductions after you've heard me out.
Oh, so hush hush. What are you these days? OGA?
That's what I wanted to talk to you about. I've got a new employer, and we're hiring. Good base plus hazard pay and bonuses, and you'd be working with quality people.
Yeah? Now who would I be working for?
People who want what's best for this country.
Uh-huh.
This is a one-time deal, Odessa. Things are happening fast. You don't want to miss this bus.
I swore an oath, and I'm sticking to it. Not something I'd expect a cockroach to understand.
Well, that's a damn shame. You sure would be an asset. Be seeing you.
I sure fucking hope not.
With the task of gaining control of the city, they waited until the controlling factions of the city had been weakened before launching a full-scale invasion, seizing control of the US capital. Part of their mission to take control of Washington, D.C. was to eliminate the division. A man who we can only assume is the leader of the Black Tusk can be seen in the trailer, ordering his men to eliminate all division agents with extreme prejudice. The division has been targeted as the only worthwhile resistance that the city has to offer, but they were to be treated as a rogue agency, so from day one they were listed as the first target for the Black Tusk.
Our primary task is to reclaim the capital from the hostile forces that presently control it. These include operatives of the Strategic Homeland Division. now considered a rogue agency that must be brought to heel. Civilian militias and remnants of the three dominant factions active within the area of operations must disarm and submit to the rule of law, or they will be classified as insurgent groups and dealt with accordingly. We've seen little evidence that anyone in this shithole of a city intends to play nice. So I advise that you shoot first and shoot last.
Barden and his officers discuss the challenges around going to war with the division. They have a plan for crippling the network and taking down the agents one by one.
We have to assume there were no survivors. So what does that mean for us? A new plan and a new enemy.
Division?
Bingo.
Then we need to do something about their advantages.
That's the new plan.
Where are we supposed to get that kind of intel?
We already have it. I got a list of key targets right here.
We're seriously going after the division?
We are seriously going after them, and we are going after them seriously. We are gonna gag them, blind them, kick them in the nuts, and steal their lunch money. This is gonna be fun.
We finally agree on something.
In a stand-up fight, a couple of division agents ain't nothing to worry about. The problem is getting them in a stand-up fight. They're crafty fuckers.
They've got a vulnerability, same one anybody has when they're trying to protect something.
There are also traitors among them that we can use to our advantage.
The first step is to cripple their network. That'll expose them, make them weak. Then, we start picking them off.
The action of taking down the SHD network communications is what brought additional agents to Washington DC. It's unclear whether this was intended or not, but the Black Tusk continued with their mission of hunting down division agents to extract intel and then assassinate.
I'm personally a fan of what y'all do. Really, I am. I admire righteousness, even if I rarely partake.
You're not getting anything from me.
You see, that's where you're mistaken. Because one thing I can tell you about myself is that I'm persuasive. And I need to locate a certain bunker y'all are using to house some of your infrastructure.
I don't know anything about that.
Then I'm sorry in advance that you're gonna do a bit of suffering for no good reason.
You're wasting your time.
I gotta disagree with you there. What I'm doing is my job, and doing your job is never a waste of time. Especially if you do it with pride and conviction. Sure you don't want to save us both some unpleasantness?
Barden and his officers can be seen early on in the conflict gathering intel for the upcoming engagement. They have been lying in the shadows, monitoring the status of Washington DC ever since the green poison hit, preparing for the right time to strike the city.
Man, fuck these flies. Ain't there enough dead shit in this town to entertain them?
They're an indication of how bad you stink, Bonnie. Flies are more attracted to you than to dead things.
Shut the hell up, both of you. Some of us are working here.
You call staring at the motherfucking White House working? It's the opposite of working. Nobody ever said surveillance is supposed to be fun. At least nobody wasn't a fucking idiot.
Bonnie doesn't think it's fun, but he's still a fucking idiot.
All of you, zip it. It's like being on a bus ride with a bunch of grade schoolers.
They started it.
I swear to God, Bonnie. Movement. South Lawn. Is it a division agent?
Yep. I can just make out the wristwatch.
Galveston, Bonnie, you're up. Find out where he goes.
Are you really gonna stick me with stinky flybait here?
Less moaning, more mobilizing. Go, go, go!
That's so hilarious.
By the time that the agents from outside of the city had arrived in Washington, the majority of the agents in the capital had gone MIA, presumed dead. Part of their mission was to find out what happened to them, but before that, they had to put an end to the growing hostile presence in the city. It was around this time that Barden was ordered to stand down, and that there was a change of plans.
Situation's changed. I need to back off the division. Back off how far? All the way. That's pretty fucking far.
Look, you got a problem with that, Bar?
Well, hell no, boss. I'm just surprised is all. It's not like you to call off a hunt.
Look, you know how it goes in this business. Today's enemies are tomorrow's friends. If there's a way we can all come out of this as teammates, so much the better.
You really think the division is gonna play ball?
Doesn't seem unreasonable to expect them to keep doing their fucking jobs.
That's not answering the question.
You know how it goes in this business.
The division was doing their job for them. Hostiles in the city were quickly being dealt with. This was going to save a ton of manpower and ammunition. So for now, the Black Tusk would stay in the dark, allowing the division to push back the three dominant factions who up until this point had complete control of the city. So at this time, the Black Tusk continued to be unknown to the division, but continued to work out of sight. Top of their priority list was to get their hands on a broad-spectrum antiviral.
What is this thing, exactly? It's a medication that cures viral sicknesses, in the way the antibiotics cure bacterial sicknesses. Probably would have been pretty useful 7 or 8 months ago. There were a couple different broad-spectrum drugs in clinical trials at the time, but mass production was out of the question, even if they'd been fast-tracked. So where did this one come from? Facility in Ann Arbor. We're chasing that down separately. Now your task is to recover those doses that were shipped to DC. What are we gonna do with them? God damn it, use your imagination, Bar. Who's not gonna sell their soul for a miracle cure?
Because of the ever-changing adaptable nature of the green poison, this antiviral was deemed as an outright cure for the virus, though there was only a limited supply. The Black Tusk was already dealing with the origin of the cure, but there was someone else with information relating to the treatment that would end it all, and this person was the President. The President at this time was Thomas Mendez. He was sworn in after President Lawrence Waller died from a heart attack not long after the original outbreak. But it would seem that this new president had trouble with his newfound responsibility and committed suicide not long after taking the position. Or so it would seem.
He's left-handed. Huh? He would have held the pistol in his left hand.
Big fucking deal. You think anyone's going to notice?
I think we had best not take chances, unless we want to face the consequences.
Whatever.
Wipe the grip and do the job properly.
Fine.
There. You happy? Of course not. This situation is completely fucked.
Oh, Mendez wasn't going to unfuck it. That's for damn sure.
Can't dispute that.
Members of the Secret Service had been promised safe passage out of the city if they eliminated Mendez from the equation. Perhaps he was unable to be controlled in the way that the Black Tusks needed. Or maybe this was the plan all along. Maybe they were involved with President Waller's untimely death too. But regardless, the Secret Service agents involved were also removed, as they were a potential threat to the unveiling of the motives of the Black Tusk.
Mendez is dead.
Let me guess. Tragic case of involuntary suicide?
Something like that.
What a proud moment in the illustrious history of the Secret Service. I say that in all seriousness. That guy was a disaster.
You think we can hurry this up?
Got someone with B-Tex?
Yeah, anywhere but here. You promised safe passage out of the city.
You boys certainly earned yourselves an express ticket out of this predicament. Think you got him, Brenner. Yeah, you got him.
I had to be sure.
Get him stowed. We're done here.
President Ellis was the Speaker of the House in the times of Lawrence Waller's presidency, and with the deaths of Waller and Mendez, he was sworn in as the new president. Ellis Andrews considered putting in a bid for presidency in the last election, but decided it wasn't the right time. Ellis aspires to build a new America, regardless of what it takes to achieve this. While aboard Air Force One, it was shot down over Washington, D.C. airspace.
Joint Base Andrews, this is Air Force One on approach. Do you copy?
We read you loud and clear. Welcome home. I've got you on a bearing of 100 at 16 Angels, over.
Sounds about right. Gonna alter course to the southeast, heading 150, then come around and Parker.
Sounds good. It'll be good to... Wait a minute, what's that?
Andrews, what are you reading?
We've got a SAM. Evade. Evade.
Copy that. I see it. Initiating evasive maneuvers. Shit, we're not gonna make it!
Air Force One? Air Force One.
Mayday, mayday! This is Air Force One. We have a missile impact and are going down. Repeat, we are going down.
Presumed dead, the division investigate the area. They found out that the hyenas had captured President Ellis and taken him hostage, and were holding him in the World Bank building. After rescuing President Ellis and sending him back to the safety of the White House, he orders the division to do what it takes to remove the hostile factions, and to retrieve his missing briefcase with the codes to the antiviral. The division did as they were instructed and pushed the dominant factions of Washington back into their main headquarters and eliminated them one by one. After the destruction of the hyenas, outcasts, and eventually the True Sons, the division retrieved the briefcase and returned it to President Ellis. However, this was the moment that the Black Tusk had been patiently waiting for. While the division and the leaders throughout Washington were celebrating the success of overthrowing the hostile factions who'd been running the city, the Black Tusk swept in and captured the city in one foul swoop. After fighting for weeks on end to take down gangs, cults and betrayers of the government, everything was quickly undone by a superior force that had been planning and studying for months before finally showing their true force and military power. In-game, we're first introduced to the Black Tusk after we've finally taken down the last of the hostile factions. Shortly after this, they roll in and take control of the city. On top of this, President Ellis disappears along with the briefcase containing access to the antiviral cure. In an echo, we can see Ellis passing the antiviral cure over to Barden.
Is that all of it?
Looks that way, Chief. Just sending enough doses for the top brass.
All right. Then let's get it somewhere safe.
We'll hold it at Tidal Basin until I get word from the boss. Wyvern, this is your baby now. You take damn good care of it.
Understood.
Nothing gets near this container, not even a fucking squirrel, you got me?
Understood.
Give me that satellite phone. I want to share the news myself.
Go on, give him your phone. Let him have his moment.
It's obvious through this meetup that Ellis is not the driving force behind the Black Tusk. He is merely another puppet under their control and taken advantage of through his vision of a new America. Ellis has disappeared, but the briefcase has been taken by Barden's crew to be extracted via their Washington DC headquarters at the Tidal Basin. The Black Tusk see the other factions as merely a hindrance to their overall goals. The division and the civilian militia, they were all to be dealt with if they didn't succumb to their rule. But in saying that, they saw potential to using them to further their plans where they were still in hiding.
Hyenas?
That's what they call themselves. Don't ask me.
Huh.
They're essentially an alliance of gangs led by a council of representatives from the toughest subgroups.
Federation of assholes.
Pretty much.
What about the True Sons?
Former JTF commander went bad. Started his own private army. They've been the dominant group in DC for a while, when it comes to territory and firepower.
And the Outcasts?
Crazies.
That's very incisive, Brenner.
They survived a forced quarantine. Got fucked over pretty bad. They're pissed about it. Now they're on the rampage. Typical terror-style tactics, mostly. Dabbling in biological warfare.
What the fuck is wrong with people?
Like I said, crazies.
Well, they're all the division's problem for the time being, but, maybe we can destabilize the situation a bit?
Hyenas are probably the best bet. Feed them some material support, they'll be a thorn in everybody's side, and they aren't organized enough to present a serious problem in the long term.
Good recommendation, Eli. I'll talk to the boss.
In an attempt to keep the division busy while they continue to work on their plans, the Black Tusk agreed to supply the hyenas with weapons. It's not that they trusted them, they just saw them as easier to control and then remove when the time came. Another puppet to their master plan. Barden passed on the antivirals to an officer named Mila Radek, otherwise known as Wyvern. She was tasked with getting the virals out of Washington. Wyvern is very professional, detached and coldly accepts setbacks and failures. She always follows orders. However, as the division agents roll in and take down her means of sending the virals from the city, she appears to lose her composure. Towards the end of the Tidal Basin stronghold, she disobeys a direct order from her superior to retreat. Instead, she stays and tries to arm missiles to blow up the White House. Barden is deeply against this, but she continues to proceed. But again, the division are able to fight her back and destroy the missile launchers. The antivirals are retrieved, and Washington is once again safe. The Black Tusk are smart, trained, and well equipped. They also have the financial backing of an organization that rivals the leadership of the United States. But the Black Tusk aren't oblivious to the fact that they too are being used as puppets in someone else's game.
Boss says the situation is legit.
Then it's legit, but that don't mean any of this is doable.
These are some very powerful individuals, apparently. Capable of pulling strings on folks that don't even realize they're puppets.
Pretty much guarantees a double cross, then. Guys like us are a loose end for people who don't want loose ends.
Our boss has some thoughts about that. Thinks we'll have sufficient leverage to come out okay. I think he's envisioning us as the Praetorian Guard of the new dynasty.
Well, he's ambitious, I'll give him that.
Don't forget, we have ridiculous firepower.
That does tip the scales a bit.
They understand the objectives of their employer, to create a new dynasty, and see themselves as a potential loose end that will need to be dealt with. but through their superior training and equipment, they see themselves as the new Praetorian Guard amongst the new dynasty. Although they may not be calling the shots, it comes down to them whether it will be actioned. Anyone familiar with the Praetorian Guard of the Roman period knows that it ended up being them that held the true power in Rome. Emperors rose and fell at their command. But the real questions of the story is, who are these employers of theirs? They seem to have been around since the beginning of the outbreak, and likely long before. They were prepared to employ this private military contractor long before the government knew how big a problem the green poison was going to be. Were they involved in some way with the outbreak in the first place? Did they fund the misguided goals of Dr. Gordon Amherst when he was first creating the virus? To me, the story is far more interesting than even the origins of the Hunters. I'd even go so far to say that the Hunters are somehow connected with this group, but I'll talk about that more in a future video. An obvious opposition to the government to the highest degree, they're even willing to make a mockery of the presidency to bend it to how they see fit, removing anyone that doesn't mix in with their plans. Although the division stopped the transportation of the antiviral from the city, this seems like a minor blip on their overall radar. I feel as though anything the division has managed to achieve so far has barely altered the path that we're yet to see. In my opinion, President Ellis is long gone. He's either been removed completely as a loose end, or is being held to be used as a figurehead for a later movement on the populace of the United States. As you see here, I have a ton of questions that I'm still trying to answer, and I'm not really expecting to know too much more until content like the upcoming raid is released. But I'll continue to read into their story and see what I can find. Do you have any theories on the employer of the Black Tusk? Let us know below. Anyway, I'll leave this one here and catch you in the next video. Cheers!